Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. Today we're doing part 3 on the Haleigh Cummings disappearance. And before I talk about today's details about the case, I'm not going to be whispering for this video. I had a few requests. The requests asking to do it in a normal voice, because they are trying to listen to this kind of content while they are doing housework or while they are working in the car, if they're running. So it makes sense to me that people want to hear this kind of story in a normal voice. Now, I am a pretty loud person, so of course this is not my normal loud self. But I get it, because when I want to listen to a story and it's true crime story, I usually go to a regular podcast and not to an ASMR video. When I want to go to bed, then I do listen to the true crime ASMR videos because everything is quiet and I can concentrate in the voice, that is telling this story. I don't get lost as easily as when I'm trying to listen to a whispering true crime ASMR while I'm doing the dishes and everything. It's loud, maybe the fan in the stove is on, and it's kind of hard to concentrate on what the person is talking about, and sometimes I get frustrated. I save it for later, when I go to bed, and in the meantime I listen to something that it's a little bit louder so I can hear it and kind of engage and make my day. Even if I'm doing something that I don't enjoy, it kind of goes faster when I'm listening to something that I'm interested in. So I am working on a podcast. I want to do that so people that just want to have the podcast option, they can. And of course, it's going to be normal voice, but I didn't know it was so much work. It's so much work, and I have no idea about editing, and I have no idea about sound. And, I understand that some people get annoyed by me breathing in the microphone if I'm swallowing, but just so you know, it's normal things that humans do. And I understand that it will annoy some people, so I am sorry if you are one of those, but I cannot change it right now. I am going to do the switch to a normal voice for some of the videos to please those of you who do want to listen to this content while I am getting the podcast up and running. Okay? Now, you guys can vote in the comments. I will put whispering, and then you can give a thumbs up if you like whispering more, or you can I'm also going to put another comment saying the regular voice, and you guys can give that a thumbs up too. If you don't want to vote with a comment, you just can give that a thumbs up, or that way I know what most people like. But it makes perfect sense that you guys want to listen to this kind of content in a normal voice. And I'm not opposed to it. I actually, kind of like it because it doesn't hurt my throat to whisper for an hour. But I don't mind doing it either because I like it too. So we're going to have to see, in the next videos, what the response is from you guys who are listening to this kind of content, and that you follow and leave comments. And I know who leave the comments, and I have some of your names in my mind right now. So I'm just trying to switch it up and try to make things to please everyone, even though I know that it's not possible. This is a new channel, and I'm trying to see what works. So bear with me. Now, today we're going to talk about lies. Yes, that is such a fun way to start the video, right? I just think that when I start doing research and all I can see is lies, people lying, I feel like they're lying to my face. I'm like, listen, I have proof otherwise, and you are swearing that that's true when I have proof that it's a lie. It really frustrates me to see that, but we just have to go through this information as well, because it's going all to build a case against some of these characters in this horrible situation, because it is a horrible situation. But as I go deeply into the case, it seems like this is like a horrible written novel that it's like the never-ending story. There's always more and more and more. That sadly, not everything makes sense, and that sadly, even though we know there's a lot of lies around this case, we don't have actual proof that will incriminate them. We have proof that they're lying, but that is not illegal. So we don't have the proof to convict anyone here to what the police think happened, or what people think happened. So today we're going to talk about somebody who actually keeps defending Misty at this point. And it's not even Misty's mother. It's not Ronald as much, which is Misty's boyfriend and Haleigh's dad. There's somebody out there who is defending Misty in a way that it makes it look very obvious that she's trying to do that, and it makes her look very bad. And I'm talking about Ronald's mom. Her name is Teresa Neves, and let's start with the 911 call. Now, everything traced back to the 911 call. She claimed that Ronald called her at 3:27, 3:28 a.m. So maybe this was while Misty was on the 911 call, or right before she called 911. And she claims that Ronald called her around that time and that told her that Haleigh was missing. She claims right away that she's sure that, Haleigh's probably hiding under the bed. Again, there's no beds in the house. We already went through that part. But she actually said in an interview that when she got that call, the first thing she thought was, well, she's probably hiding under a bed. And this is probably just a scare or something for Ronald and Misty, but she'll be fine. She didn't actually say it in those words. What she said is that she thought that this wasn't something big and that she was probably hiding somewhere. Okay, that those are her words. But she made it seem in the way that she said it is that she didn't think that it was something really bad that happened to Haleigh, or that she was actually missing, or that somebody took her. Even though we know at this point that Misty, since the beginning, she's been claiming that somebody took Haleigh from the bed. So I'm sure that by the time, and this is speculation because I don't have the recording of Ronald calling his mom, but I'm sure that when he called her, he told her somebody took Haleigh. And I don't think he said Haleigh's missing, because he never referred as Haleigh as missing. He's been saying that she's been taken, that she was stole, not stolen, stole, that somebody stole Haleigh. So it doesn't make sense from the beginning that, Ronald called her and said that, they couldn't find Haleigh, and that she thought that she was hiding under a bed. Again, there's no beds in the house. They're just mattresses on the floor. So, from the get-go, you realize that this lady, it's not being honest 100%. That maybe she's sugarcoating some of the things that she's trying to hide because I mean, that's the only thing that you can think of this. She's trying to hide something because we know what Ronald keeps saying about when Haleigh disappeared. We know that they don't have beds. And she also claims that she was wearing her nightgown, but when Ronald said that, she put her jeans on and drove to Ronald's house. And she was there in 5 minutes. Now, let's go through some of the things that don't add up on top of the ones that we already talked about that they're obvious. Now, she said that she lived 12 to 15 miles away from Ronald's house and that she made it there in 5 minutes. Okay, maybe she did. Let's say she did. No, that she was speeding and she made it there in 5 minutes. Okay, there are some other things that don't make sense because she also arrives wearing a police jacket and an 8x10 school photo of Haleigh. Now, keep in mind that this was 2009, and back then the smartphones was something pretty new, I think. So, yeah, maybe she didn't have a phone on her, a photo of Haleigh on her phone. But don't you think it's awfully convenient that she, number one, decided to put on a jacket that says police, and number two, that she had very handy an 8x10 school photo of Haleigh when she in the interview, and she said it herself. I didn't read this. I heard her say that she didn't think that Haleigh was missing. She thought that Haleigh was probably hiding somewhere. Again, how can she get up so fast, get dressed? Because, think about it. It's 3:30 a.m. in the morning, you're sleeping, and then all of a sudden your son calls you and say, hey, my daughter is been taken or is missing. Okay, so you are half awake, you put whatever is on and you leave, right? I mean, that happened to me once, and not because somebody was missing, but because I had to get up in the middle of the night and pick up somebody that it was in a bad situation. But I remember that I even forgot my glasses. I wear glasses and I forgot them, and I don't see if I don't have glasses at night. So I was half awake. My first instinct was to jump in the car, turn it on, and leave. So I actually had to, and then I remember that I had an extra pair that I don't like, but I keep in the car for emergencies, and that's how I actually drove to where I was supposed to go. But again, it's awfully convenient that she had the time to find that picture, that she chose to wear a police jacket and was there within 5 minutes. Actually, she said that she got a call between 3:27 or 3:28, and she said that she was there by 3:30. Then she said 5 minutes. So I don't know how you can drive that fast, have a picture, be dressed, and make sense out of anything at that time. But let's move on. That's just something that it really didn't make sense to me, so I thought that I should share it. She also claims that when the police gets there, she claims that she's a dispatcher for a close by county, and then police tried to corroborate that, and they realized that was her former job and that she was actually unemployed at the time. So that is a funny, not even funny, but that is a weird thing to say, I'm working for this county, even though you know that they can check that they're the police, you're wearing a police jacket. why are you doing this? I mean, why are you wearing that police jacket? Are you trying to send a message? Are you trying to get a little bit of empathy from the police? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Some investigation suggests that okay, this is a long tangent that I'm not gonna go through it, but I'm gonna briefly mention it, because there's other things that I think are more important. There was an investigation. I think it was done by a blogger, and he mentioned that she was lying about where she lived at the time, and that she was actually living in the area of Lady Lake, and that is 75 miles away from Satsuma, where Haleigh disappeared. If she lived in Lady Lake, 75 miles away from Ronald's house, it would have been impossible for her to make it there within 5 minutes. Now again, we are not 100% sure why would she feel the need to lie about that. Because, if this was a setup thing, they could have done it some other way. But, they found an eviction note with the Ronald's mom's name, Teresa, and her boyfriend in Lady Lake area in one of the apartments. So that suggests, and that's why it's a tangent that it's very, very long, and that's why I'm choosing not to do it. But that would suggest that Teresa knew that something was going on, and she was ready to go to the house at 3:30 to be there when the police got there. That this was something that was set up, because there is no possible way for Teresa to make it from her house or from her apartment 75 miles away. And why wouldn't the police, verify, when the investigation was going on about where she was living? Or I don't know if the police actually did make it to her house. So there's a lot of ifs. But there is a theory that she was actually lying, and that her apartment was actually very far away from Ronald's house, and that proves that it was a setup, and she was part of it. Now, another thing about this Teresa character here, she keeps defending Misty like, I don't know, crazy. She even calls Misty the best out of all the girlfriends that Ronald ever had. It sounds suspicious, okay? Because think about it. You're the grandmother of this kid that disappeared on the watch of your son's girlfriend. The son's girlfriend was watching the kid at the time, and she disappeared while she was watching the kid. Wouldn't that make you suspicious about everything? The police at this point believe that Misty is the key to find out what happened to Haleigh, and that she's actually not telling everything that she knows. Why would Teresa take the time to defend her? It almost makes it seem like they're trying to cover up something. Because the police started to doubt Misty when she claimed that Haleigh was wearing a pink shirt when she disappeared, and then later on they found it in the washer machine. Now you're probably wondering, okay, what if it was another pink shirt? What if, why is the police so sure that that was the shirt that Haleigh was using at the time that she went to bed? And couldn't this be another pink shirt? No. Misty actually claims that the shirt that Haleigh was wearing at the time that she went to bed was the one that was found in the washing machine. So she is claiming that whoever took Haleigh took off the shirt and left it there. Now why? Why would he do that, or she, or whoever took her? Why would they feel the need to make sure that the shirt that she was wearing was put in the washer machine before leaving the house? Wouldn't you just grab the kid and run? Plus, we must have some kind of DNA on that shirt, right? Of whoever took her. Uh, you know, some kind of something, fingerprints or something. Did he actually take the time to turn on the washer machine to make sure that that was very clean? Again, that doesn't make any sense. But we are not even sure at this point, or I don't have the information if, the police got any kind of physical evidence from that shirt. But I think at that time, they were pretty sure that Misty was lying for some reason. And it doesn't make sense why she would lie about that shirt. But we all know that didn't happen. There's no guy that is going to go pick up a kid, take the time to remove the shirt and leave it there. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So if you're the grandmother, again, of a child that is missing, that is an awfully odd behavior, don't you think? Defending that lady that police know is lying, and that she's probably hiding what really happened to your granddaughter. It's just one of those things that makes you think that, maybe Misty and Teresa and maybe other people in this family are covering up what really happened to Haleigh. What Misty is saying doesn't make sense and is clearly lying. So why defend her? Now I'm going to quote some of the things that Teresa was saying about Misty. And these are all quotes, okay? I wrote them, I was listening to what she was saying and writing them while I was listening to this interview. So I don't know, it makes me want to cry when I hear these things. Teresa said that she never, I'm going to read it how she said it, never seen my grandchildren more happy in their lives than they have been with Ronald and Misty. They are ecstatic. They're always smiling. They're always playing. They are, to me, it was an extreme joy to see them like a little family, always doing things together. My babies loved her. They absolutely wanted, okay, remember, the brother is younger than Haleigh. I think it's 3 or 2? 3. And she's 5. Okay. They absolutely wanted Ronald to marry her so she could be mommy. Misty is on the top of the list, referring as the best girlfriend Ronald ever had. Let's keep quoting this lady. She also said, she takes better care of the children than anyone I've seen with them. You would have to see it to actually enjoy it touches your heart how happy they all are together. Wait, hold on. This doesn't make sense. At this point, Ronald has been dating Misty for 2 months. How can you know somebody that good in 2 months and even trust your grandkids to a stranger with clearly, at this point, we do know that Misty had drug problems, okay? It wasn't a secret. She's had problems with the police, and everyone knew about the partying and everything related to Misty. So please explain to me, how is she defending a lady that she barely knows, okay, that it doesn't make sense. She was the last one to see your granddaughter alive. She is lying to the police. There's evidence that she's lying. how can you say all those nice things about her when you know that there's something that is not adding up? To me, to this point, it seems like something did happen, and that Misty, again, that Teresa is trying to make Misty look good in order for Misty not to say anything about it. Like she's trying to cover Misty so Misty can cover whatever really happened to Haleigh. And at this point, I honestly believe that Ronald had something to do with it, and that, by Teresa covering for Misty, it was the way that she had to pay her or to help her get rid of the guilt of people were putting on Misty at this point, because maybe in the back of the mind, or Teresa's mind, she knew that Misty was a teenager, and that she could open her mouth at any point. So to me, Teresa saying all this nonsense on different interviews is just adding to the idea that this is a cover-up, that this is, maybe Teresa's involved. Well, I believe that Teresa's involved in what happened, or that she actually knows what happened to Haleigh. And and there's more than one that knows what actually happened. You just have to cover each other's butts, because if one goes down, then they're probably all going to go down. So at this point, it just doesn't make sense, but at the same time, it makes sense in my mind. Why would she, why she would do that? Now, let's go back to Misty. Haleigh disappeared on a Monday, okay? And the weekend before, so a couple days before, Misty was partying and doing drugs with Gregory Page, who calls himself White Boy Greg. Even Ronald knew about it, and he was furious. They had a huge fight because of it. And Misty, after that, fight that they had, she didn't even want to babysit Haleigh that Monday. She was partying all weekend. She was doing drugs. She was cheating on Ronald, and they had that huge fight. And then all of a sudden, Ronald was like, "Hey, can you watch the kids on Monday?" Again, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. In the back of my mind, that fight, maybe that something happened during that fight. Maybe, Haleigh disappearing didn't actually happen on Monday night. But, at this point, we can only speculate of what really happened. But let's keep going. She didn't want to babysit Haleigh on that Monday, to the point that even Teresa Neves, which is Ronald's mom, she offered to pay her to stay with the kids. Because, Ronald asked Teresa as well to see if she could watch the kids, because he needed to go to work that Monday, which is awfully responsible for the kind of guy that Ronald is, or seems to be at this point. And then even Teresa says no. Teresa says, I can't do it. I'll offer Misty some money so she could, she could watch the kids that Monday night. So Misty claims that she accepted to stay with the kids and babysit, but she knew that Ronald was furious. So I think she was a little bit, pushed to the point that she needed to stay with the kids. And she also said that she didn't accept the money from Teresa at this point. Now, a side note, I never heard Teresa, which is the grandma of these kids, I never heard her say, if I only kept the kids that night, maybe Haleigh would have been here. I have never. And believe me, I looked up every single interview, every single podcast, every single blogger interview with her, because she is pretty fishy or suspicious to me. And she never said, if only I kept the kids that night. You know, she was asked, according to this theory, that, you know, she could stay with the kids. And she said no. So, listen, if that was you, wouldn't you think that? What if I kept the kid? I mean, what if I put aside myself and what I wanted to do that night and decided to watch my grandkids? Maybe Haleigh would be alive today, or would be with us today, or would have been with us today. You know, it's just the kind of thing that doesn't make sense. She doesn't act like a normal person does. And I'm saying quote unquote normal. I'm talking about reactions. I am talking about a kind of almost instinct that we have, you know? When something like this happened, oh, if I only didn't do this or do that, maybe that wouldn't have happened. And we all know that what is meant to be, it is meant to be. But we always have that in the back of our minds, and I've never heard her say that. Don't you think that's a little bit suspicious? Now, also, Ronald claims that he tried to call Misty while he was at work that Monday, but she wouldn't pick up the phone. And that he even called Misty's brother, Tommy, to go check on her. And that he went to the trailer, he knocked, nobody answered. And it seems like everyone was sleeping at that point because the lights were off, and he didn't want to wake up everyone. But he realized that everyone was asleep, and that's what he told Ronald. Now, some sources claim that even Teresa contacted Tommy that night to check on Misty. So I think that Teresa and Ronald knew that Misty was in no position to watch the kids, that she wasn't in a good place, maybe because of the partying that she did over the weekend, and that she was in a bad place and that she shouldn't be watching the kids, and that's why they were checking on her so much, you know. Both of them talked to Tommy at some point to check on her. It doesn't sound right, okay? If you're asking somebody to babysit your kids and then you have to call a neighbor to go check on the babysitter, it's pretty weird. Unless you don't trust them, right? If you don't trust the babysitter, then you're like, okay, next door neighbor, can you keep an eye open for the house and just make sure that if they go in or out of the house, you know, it's a new babysitter, I just want to keep an eye on them. That would make sense. But wasn't Ronald living with Misty? And according to Teresa, she was a wonderful mother to these kids, and the kids were absolutely happy with her. So how come they didn't trust her that night with the kids? You know, it's another thing that doesn't make sense, or it does make sense when you're either trying to covering something up, or when you know that maybe something is about to go down. Maybe Ronald had some kind of suspicious of somebody, you know. We know that he had a record. We know that he had a drug problem. We know that he had guns in his house. We know that, you know, he wasn't one of those, just quote unquote normal families. He was involved with some kind of criminal activity, so maybe he knew that something was coming. That's why Teresa was checking on them, and that's why Ronald was checking on them too. Now, in the meantime, Ronald, okay, hold on, I have to talk about this because on the next part that I'm gonna do, it's gonna go into this a lot more, but I have to mention it in this one so you can process it with me, okay? At this point, you know, with all the she said, he said, and, you know, going back to the actual night, let's go back to real time, you know, in the investigation, okay? So, in the meantime, while Haleigh is missing, so a month after Haleigh was missing, Ronald proposes to Misty. Yes. Are you still with me? Ronald proposes? What? Why? Who would get married when their kid is missing? It's been a month. Yes, he did. And it's only, I mean, it's only to raise an eyebrow, you know? It's how? How and why would you do that? What can possess you to do that at this time? Because, okay, listen, maybe you had a plan to propose, maybe you even have a ring, but when your daughter is missing and the last person to see her alive was the person that is your girlfriend, who, by the way, in case you forgot in the last 5 minutes, she was partying a month ago, you know, and she was doing drugs. She was cheating on you. You call her a dumb babe. And that was a month ago. What changed? What happened? Why all of a sudden you feel the love and you feel the need to propose and even get married so soon? So she cheated a month ago. She was the last person to see your daughter alive. And then you decide to marry her while your daughter is still missing. Perfect sense. Okay. And they got married. They got married in a friend's yard because not even the church that had the vigils for Haleigh, they didn't allow the marriage there. They were like, we're not having you here. You guys need professional help. Well, they didn't say that, but I'm sure they thought about it. Misty actually claims that Haleigh would have wanted them to get married. And that's what they did. They knew each other for 6 months at this point, okay? They knew each other. I'm not saying they were living together for 6 months. Remember, it was, 2 months before they started to actually date. They knew each other for 6 months at that point when they got married, according to my research. Okay, perfect sense, right? Because that's what you do when your daughter is missing. You move on with your life and you find a wife, which is also somebody who's lying to the police about where your daughter actually is. Can you see how this is starting to make sense in a weird way? Can you see how this looks more like a cover-up in trying to keep Misty happy and quiet? It's just, I think that the weak link here is Misty at this point. So let's move on. Oh, and they had their honeymoon in New York City because they went to the NBC studios to give an interview there, because they're famous at this point. And the police claim that, at this point, it's the police still saying that there is inconsistencies on Misty's story. So the interview, they ask her straightforward, why there were so many inconsistencies, why they got married, and they claim that they got married to get the attention of the people, and that they wanted the attention on Haleigh, and that lately, before they got married, the attention was on Ronald's personal life and not so much on Haleigh. Okay, so according to the news report I watched at the time, on 2009, no spouse could testify against the other in Florida. So at this point, the police wasn't even sure that this was, the police wasn't even sure that if this was an actual marriage or if it was a way to keep Misty quiet at this point. That again, what I was saying a few minutes ago, that Misty was the weak link in this investigation, or in this case, because if it actually was a cover-up and Ronald was the one who had more to lose compared to Misty, maybe the police could get Misty and kind of cut a deal for her and she could say something. So I think that it was more of strategy than anything. But, that's what the police were saying at the time. This marriage didn't make sense other than legal sense to them. In the interview, they also, going back to the interview, because the interview, it's so sad. They also asked Ronald, they asked Ronald about Ronald Jr. Because he claims that he saw somebody dressed in black that took Haleigh. He said that to the police, okay? That is in the report. And at that point, they asked him in the interview about that, and Ronald claims that it must be Crystal, Ronald Jr.'s mom and Haleigh's mom, that that she was trying to, I don't know, make that believe to Ronald Jr. that somebody, like, it was a story fabricated by Crystal. It doesn't make sense, okay? If that was a story and somebody told that story to Ronald Jr., it would have been Misty or somebody in the house who was actually trying to cover that up, because there is no other reports of somebody dressed in black that night. There's no other witnesses. So why would Crystal feel the need to tell Ronald Jr. to say that? It wouldn't make sense. She wasn't even in the house. She said that, Ronald said that initially to the police. He didn't start talking about that 2 years later. So again, I think Ronald was trying to point fingers at Crystal's family, or, like they had something to do with Haleigh's disappearance at this point. They also both claim that they have passed the polygraph in that interview. They say that, and they, they also ask Misty straightforward why she lied about where Haleigh was sleeping. Remember that in the first episode of this, I mentioned that she said that she was sleeping in her bed, and then, in Misty's bed, and then she said no, she was sleeping in her mattress, separate, So they asked her, Misty, why were you confused? Why did you say one thing first, and then why did you say another one? And, there's a long pause, which you don't see in TV that much. But there was this long pause, and she said, I don't know. So she doesn't know why she lied. She doesn't know I was confused. She doesn't say, I had too much to drink, or, maybe I was just confused, or, no, she just to say in national television that she doesn't know. Now, both of them claiming that they passed a polygraph was the dumbest thing that they could have done, because they didn't, okay? It's a public record. They didn't pass the polygraph. So I don't know why they were trying to. Again, that shows how much of a brain these people have. Listen, there's proof that you didn't. Why would you go on national television and look like a liar? Again, it doesn't make sense. Later, after the interview, they spotted the newlywed with the mother-in-law, Teresa. So Teresa did go with them to that interview. See that trio? That trio is covering something. In my mind, they are the master of hiding something, okay? At this point, I'm not going to say what I think it happened. But doesn't it look that way? Like Three Musketeers or something? Okay, they spotted them taking selfies in New York City, sticking their tongues out, being silly and having a great time in New York City. Hello? That didn't help in the investigation. People were not talking about Haleigh. They were talking about how weird you are, how dumb you look. Your daughter disappeared. What? What are you saying? Why are you going to New York City and taking all those silly pictures, okay? Let me tell you, I've never, and I hope I never have to go through anything like this with somebody I know, but even I remember a time when I had a family member that was sick, and in the hospital, and I knew that that person wasn't going to come out of the hospital. So I remember it was a year where I just couldn't even smile in pictures. I just, I had such a heavy weight in my shoulders that I don't think I had so many pictures from that year. I remember skipping birthday parties. I remember trying to stay home. I got sick myself. But that's just me, so it doesn't make sense to me when, okay, and that's kind of a background so you understand why it doesn't make sense to me that they were just being silly and taking pictures and having fun and even having a party or a wedding. Who would want to put on a wedding dress, or in the case of Ronald, who would want to dress up for a wedding when your daughter is missing, when you don't know if there's people abusing her, kicking her, doing horrible things to her, and you're just in one of your friends' house having a party and having a great time and then going on a honeymoon to New York City? It just, again, it doesn't make sense. And just to finish this, we're going to talk about another aspect of Ronald in this case, and that is that after the wedding and after New York and everything, he was spotted in Tampa, Florida, in a tattoo parlor where he boasted about the money he was making since Haleigh disappeared. This was covered by the news, and even they do have witnesses that say that Ronald was sharing how much money he's been making, or how much more money he has now that Haleigh is missing. Now, at this point, he was fired from the company that he was working the night. He worked in a bridge building company, and he was fired. So he had no job, okay? And he decided to go get a tattoo for, Haleigh's face and also Ronald Jr. face. And I am not a tattoo person, but I know they're expensive. Okay, so he's unemployed. He was fired because, they gave him some time off. Well, quite a long time off because of what happened to Haleigh, the company did. But he never showed up back to work. I don't think he needed the money at this point. I think that he was making money because of the interviews that he'd been on related to Haleigh's disappearance and stuff like that. So he was doing great with money, and so he decided to go to this tattoo parlor and tell the guy and everyone who would listen that he was doing great with money thanks to Haleigh's disappearance. Maybe he didn't say it in those words, but he boasted about how much money he was making since she disappeared, and that's just messed up. Again, the news, this reporter was there, so he was trying to get an interview with him, and he mentioned that he was getting a tattoo from his, with his kid faces and stuff like that, and he only showed Haleigh's. He also said that he was tired, and that he was tired of people being on top of him and the cameras following him everywhere. He just wanted to have a normal life, and he also said that, he said this, quote, "All I want to do is plead for the life of my daughter. Please, if you have her, please bring her home." That's what he said on that news thing, and that actually went on air, that's what people saw. So he basically said that he was getting the tattoo to bring what awareness of what, why? It just doesn't make sense. Now, the reporter asked about the problems that they had between the mother, Crystal, side of the family, and the father's, Ronald's, of course, with the claims that he made Crystal's fiance. Remember that we talk about that, Ronald said that to Crystal's fiance and brother that, you know, that he knew where Haleigh was, that he had a gun and he was gonna go kill whoever took Haleigh and stuff like that. And he then got mad and said that he was tired of people making up stories and everyone trying to be on his face, and that he was going to he wanted to avoid all this circus and all this media joke and stuff like that. And you know, for somebody who's trying to avoid media, he's doing pretty dumb stuff. I mean, if you want to avoid media, stay in your house, go to work, be a normal person, hide your face, hide your kid's face. Don't take pictures of New York City sticking your tongue out. It doesn't make sense. Please. I mean, if you want to stay out of the media, then stop doing dumb stuff, okay? Just so you know. So in this video, we're gonna stop it right there because I don't know for how long I've been talking. But again, I think that with all the things that I have in my notes and my feelings about, I think it just creates such a long video, but it gives you an idea on different ways of seeing what they were doing and how they were doing some things, but they were trying to portray different ones. Now I think you have a better idea of the kind of grandmother she was, Teresa and Ronald's mom, the kind of inconsistencies that continue to pile on Misty's side of the story, the suspicious way of making money of this, you know, on Ronald's side. And it's just all going to start to make sense in the next episode or the next part of this series of videos. So please share in the comments down below what you think is going on at this point. Do you think that they're covering up something? Do you think that they're not smart enough to cover up something? Do you think that they actually killed Haleigh, that they took her, that they gave her to somebody? What do you think it happened? I mean, what do you think they're covering at this point? We're going to speculate at this point, but I think we're just gonna have to wait until the end of this series to come up with a full theory based on all the evidence that I have here on this case. So I hope that you are enjoying it, and yeah, please share your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm hoping to record the next part tomorrow and share it with you within a couple of days. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you on my next video. Bye guys.